So, our last evening with our spiritual friends. We're all each other's spiritual friends. We've been sitting together, meditating together, going into the jhanas together. The vibrations of everybody's meditation have been reverberating throughout this Dhamma hall, and when sometimes you walk in, you can just feel this energy. Has everybody felt that energy in the Dhamma hall? Yeah. So that energy has also been very powerful in order to keep us on the task of learning how to let go of suffering. So the Four Noble Truths, there is suffering, and I think everybody has had personal experiences, even in the meditation retreat, of suffering. Then the cause of suffering is craving. And some of you have reported really seeing it very up close and personal and having an experience of letting go of it. Then the 6 R's. The way to let go of that tension and tightness and that holding on to certain ideas and certain views and certain wants and certain needs, thinking that's what's going to make me happy. But it doesn't really, because happiness is really in here, isn't it? It's not out there. It's not all those things that we think we need in order to be happy. So feeling that relief of suffering, this is the mundane nibbana of having that, and just that relaxation and that letting go on the mundane level. And we have been following the Eightfold Path that the Buddha prescribed for doing that. In the mornings, we've been taking our refuges, precepts, and reading the verses of the Dhammapada together. So, in your folder is the 5 precepts that the layperson takes. So you might consider, when you're doing your morning sitting, your first sitting of the day, just taking the precepts. And if you have time, it doesn't really take that much time, does it? You will be able also to read the Dhammapada verses, and they will remind you of some things that you encountered here at the retreat, and remind you of how to stay on that Eightfold Path. So, taking the 5 precepts, having right view and right intention. Right view is some of the views that have been expressed in the Dhamma talks. Right intention is not really grasping onto sense pleasures as the vehicle for attaining happiness. Having non-ill will for people, or all beings, non-ill will, and non-cruelty. Those are the 3 intentions that you can keep in your mind. Because here too, you've been using your little bug pickups to take the bug and put it outside. And that's part of that non-cruelty. I don't want, just like I don't suffer, like I want to live, you can live too. So we've been going through the Eightfold Path, and you have this in your folder. Then the other thing that we have been doing is we have been learning how to have keen mindfulness, remembering to see how the mind moves from the object, remembering to observe how the mind moves from the object of meditation away from the object. The 6 R's of right effort, of recognizing that the mind is off the object, or recognizing that the mind is on an unwholesome thought, releasing that thought, relaxing, re-smiling, going back to the object of meditation, which is metta, it's karuna, which is compassion, which is mudita, altruistic joy, and equanimity, upekkha. So those are mind states that are accessible in this practice, and the loving kindness has been the entry point of going through these uplifted mind states. So you've been doing that, so you've been the 3 folds of the path you've done in your meditation practice of mindfulness, right effort, and right collectedness, which is sometimes also called right concentration. Also, we've been doing metta, quite a bit of metta, and again I will review what's in your folder. What are the benefits of doing metta? One sleeps well, one wakes up in comfort, one has no evil dreams, although Mara, which is the evil one, has visited some of you and given you some evil dreams, because Mara, the evil one, that is kind of a energy, does not want you to be liberated. Mara wants you to keep on this plane of consuming and doing all the things that we see people do that are unwholesome on this earth plane. That's the function of Mara. So you've been clearing some of that in your process. One is dear to human beings, and one is dear to non-human beings. And so you have seen how the animals have really gravitated towards you and wanted to be on your lap and wanted to be scratched and wanted to be loved, and are just coming to you because they feel that energy of metta, and they really groove on it. Okay, then the deities protect one. Have you had any real demonstrations of how the deities have protected at Dhamma Sukha?
Well, back in 2008, there was a massive windstorm, which knocked down all these trees. And I wasn't here, but the story was many of the trees up here got knocked down. But only just one little corner of a cap actually got hit, and everything else is fine. So, I don't know. Maybe
That's what you assumed, that the deities were protecting, right?
nothing's ever been stolen. There's been no real issues here ever. So we just survive and are away from the road, but we're all by ourselves. Quite happy.
So, you might have an experience in your own life about the deities protecting you. Be open to it. Then, neither fire nor poison nor weapon can affect one. That is one that I was really, really interested in, because you know how how violent the world can be. And if one can have loving kindness that is strong enough that weapons can't affect one, then that is a great power to have. Now, I haven't tested it. I haven't gone into really rough neighborhoods, but that is in the suttas. One can concentrate the mind quickly, and we've had evidence of that in the practice. One's facial complexion is serene, and I think you've noticed in each other how serene you look. And if you've looked in the mirror, you've noticed how serene you look. So one's facial complexion is serene, and one dies without any confusion. And that's an important one. If we continue to practice the meditation, if we continue to practice the Dhamma, it's important towards the end of life to really pay attention to how to pass over. So this path of TWIM is really very, very helpful in the passing over. And you've had now an introduction to it, and you can keep working at it. And one of the things that Bhante said was that if you're really practicing sincerely and you're practicing quite I'm not sure of the words, but he said you won't get killed in an accident, right? So practicing that metta.
The 5 precepts.
And the five precepts. It was the 5 precepts. You won't get killed in an accident. That you will die peacefully by natural causes. So if one does not attain a higher stage of enlightenment, one will be reborn in the Brahma world. So one will be reborn in a great state of clarity of consciousness. That's in your folder to review. Then, one more. I don't know if you've looked through your folders. What you think and ponder on, that's the inclination of your mind. The more smiling thoughts we have, the more inclined mind will tend towards happiness. So that's in your folder. If you need to put it up on your mirror somewhere or something, just put it up and remind yourself. What you think and ponder on is the inclination of your mind. Okay. I think that we have talked individually on the meditation practice in your daily life, how you can avail yourself of some sitting time, and just keep in touch with the practice that you have developed here. When you go home, the practice will slip. You won't be in quite as high a state of consciousness as you are here, but with keeping the precepts and keeping your meditation practice regular, you can hit some of those same states at times in the practice at home. Also, sometimes you go home and you just have a really good sitting, and you never know, the conditions might be exactly right. You have let go of just enough that you have cessation. So it can happen. Okay, and then I think I will read the sutta that I was going to read tonight. It's a short one about virtuous behavior. 523. One of the things that is not in this discourse is, well, it's somewhat in the discourse, but there's a nice mnemonic about speech. The mnemonic is think. So the first one is what I'm going to say timely? And the next one, I, is intention. What is my intention of saying this? And think. H. Now my mind is getting cloudy. H. Is it honest? Is what I'm saying going to say honest? Think, right? THI. Yeah, the intention. And N. Is it necessary? Is what I'm going to say really necessary for the situation? And the last one is, can I say it in a kindly manner? So just think and see if you can follow those instructions. 523. 523. Is this right? 523. Okay, advice to Rahula at Ambalastika. Rahula was the Buddha's son, and he was in the monastery. And let me see, 637. Let me get this right. About 637. Okay. Rahula was the only son of the Buddha, born on the day his father left the palace to seek enlightenment. At the age of 7, he was ordained as a novice by Venerable Sariputta on the occasion of the Buddha's first return visit to his home life after his enlightenment, or his home. Not his home life, but his home. The Buddha declared him the foremost disciple among those desirous of training. That was Sariputta, the foremost disciple. Okay. This discourse was taught to Rahula when he was 7 years old, thus very shortly after his ordination. And Rahula attained arhatship after listening to a discourse by the Buddha on the development of insight. That is not this particular sutta. This sutta is telling him how to behave in his daily life. Okay. All right. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One is living at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's sanctuary. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Rahula was living at Amalathika. Then when it was evening, the Blessed One rose from meditation and went to the Venerable Rahula at Amalathika. The Venerable Rahula saw the Blessed One coming in the distance and made a seat ready and sat out water for washing the feet The Blessed One sat down on the seat, made ready, and washed his feet. The Venerable Rahula paid homage to him and sat down at one side. Then the Blessed One left a little water in the water vessel and asked the Venerable Rahula, "Rahula, do you see this little water left in the water vessel?" "Yes, Venerable Sir." "Even so, little Rahula, is the recluseship of those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie." Then the Blessed One threw away the little water that was left and asked the Venerable Rahula, "Rahula, do you see that little water that was thrown away?" "Yes, Venerable Sir." "Even so, Rahula, those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie have thrown away their recluseship." That means that they have broken their precept of not lying. Then the Blessed One turned the water vessel upside down and asked the Venerable Rahula, "Rahula, do you see this water vessel turned upside down?" "Yes, Venerable Sir." "Even so, Rahula, those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie have turned their recluseship upside down." So he's talking to a 7-year-old child, and he's giving him these physical clues about if you tell a deliberate lie, you're going to throw away your recluseship, and you're going to, it's going to be like a hollow, empty vessel. So, even so hollow and empty, Rahula, is the recluseship of those who are not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie. Suppose, Rahula, there was a royal tusker elephant with tusks as long as a chariot pole, full-grown in stature, high-bred, and accustomed to battle. In battle he would perform his task with his 4 feet and his hind feet, with his forequarters and his hindquarters, with his head and his ears, with his tusks and his tail, yet he would keep back his trunk. Then his rider would think, "This royal tusker elephant with his trunk as long as a chariot pole performs his task in battle with his 4 feet and his hind feet, yet he keeps back his trunk. He has not yet given up his life." But when the royal tusker elephant performs his tasks in battle with his 4 feet and his hind feet, with his forequarters and his hindquarters, with his head and his ears, with his tusks and his tail, and also with his trunk, then his rider would think, "This royal tusker elephant with tusks as long as chariot poles performs his task in battle with his 4 feet and his hind feet," and all the other words in there, and also with his trunk. He has given up his life. Now there is nothing this royal tusker elephant would not do. So too, Rahula, when one is not ashamed to tell a deliberate lie, there is no evil, I say, that one would not do. Therefore, Rahula, you should train thus: I will not utter a falsehood even as a joke. Okay. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? For the purpose of reflection, Venerable Sir. So too, Rahula, an action with the body should be done after repeated reflection. An action by speech should be done after repeated reflection. An action by mind should be done after repeated reflection. Rahula, when you wish to do an action with the body, you should reflect upon that same bodily action thus: Will this action that I wish to do with the body lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? Is it an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results? When you reflect, if you know, this action that I wish to do with the body would lead to my own affliction or the affliction of others or to the affliction of both, it is an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results. Then you definitely should not do such an action with the body. But when you reflect, if you know, this action that I wish to do with the body would not lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others or to the affliction of both. It is a wholesome bodily action with pleasant consequences, with pleasant results. Then you may do such an action with the body. Also, Rahula, while you are doing an action with the body, you should reflect upon that same bodily action thus. Does this action that I am doing with the body lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? Is it an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results? When you reflect, if you know, this action that I'm doing with the body leads to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, it is an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results. Then you should suspend such a bodily action. But when you reflect, if you know that this action that I am doing with the body does not lead to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, it is a wholesome bodily action with pleasant consequences, with pleasant results. Then you may continue in such bodily action. So it's also demonstrating that Rahula should, and probably does, have very keen mindfulness, because when he contemplates something as a bodily action, he contemplates it mindfully to see if this is going to be a wholesome action. Then while he's doing the action, he's also being mindful. Is this action that I'm doing a wholesome action? And by knowing that, then he can either continue with a wholesome action, or if he's engaged in something that could be unwholesome, then stop and not do it anymore. So this is, you have to have keen mindfulness and able to be able to see with that within yourself. Then, also, Rahula, after you have done an action with the body, you should reflect upon that same bodily action thus. Did this action that I did with the body lead to my own affliction, or the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? Was it an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results? When you reflect, if you know this action that I did with the body led to my own affliction, or the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, it was an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results. Then you should confess such a bodily action. Reveal it and lay it open to your teacher, or to your wise companions on the holy life. So, sometimes people practice confession. The monks definitely practice confession. They have, I think, every 2 weeks, they have a confessional where they get together and they confess any kind of transgression that they have done to the precepts that they keep. So, you may consider, if you have a spiritual friend, checking in with that spiritual friend from time to time and talking about some of the things that I wish I hadn't done that. But here, I did that, and I'm really sorry, and I don't think I'm going to do that again. So it's something to consider. Otherwise, just reflect on your own that you have done something that is not really wholesome. Having confessed it, revealed it, and laid it open, you should undertake restraint for the future. But when you reflect, if you know, this action that I did with the body did not lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others or to the affliction of both. It was a wholesome bodily action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results. You can abide happily and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Rahula, when you wish to do an action by speech, and then go through the same thing. Go through the think, reflect on whether you have really done what you wanted to do in a wholesome way. Also, if you also Rahula while you're doing an action by speech. Also Rahula after you have done an action by speech. Same thing with the reflection. Rahula when you wish to do an action by the mind. And then an action by the mind is just in the mind states. Something happens in the world, and it's really disagreeable to you, particularly in this day and age where people are so polarized in politics. One of your most unfavorite politicians does something that you think is very stupid and is very harmful. When you see that event being presented to you on TV or in your media, reflect to see if it's bringing a hateful thought or a hateful feeling in your mind. And so, same thing with lust. If you see something that you're really, all of a sudden the craving has really taken a hold of you, and you can see, oh yeah, the craving, the lusting has taken hold of me. If you're able then to see it at that time and able to let it go with your 6 R's, then you are observing your mind and not letting the mind state take over your mind, and using the 6 R's, replacing it with a wholesome thought. So your most unfavored politician is out there, and people are rioting in the streets, and people are expressing their displeasure, and people are expressing their hate. Bring up a compassionate thought. May they experience non-hate. May I experience non-hate with that trigger. So it's a very important practice then also to keep your mind states uplifted. The uplifted mind states, the loving kindness, the compassion, the joy, the equanimity. With some of these occurrences in our politics, having equanimity, knowing that people are acting out because they really don't understand. And having the equanimity to say, I forgive you for not understanding. It's hard to do because our culture is really driving us the other way. Our culture is driving us towards hate, towards greed, towards delusion. So with the mindfulness that we have developed here, and with the positive mind states that we have developed here, we have a protection not to be sucked into these unwholesome states that are occurring around us. Okay. So after you've done the reflection on the action of your mind, you can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Rahula, whatever recluses and Brahmins in the past purified their bodily action, their verbal action, and their mental action, all did so by repeatedly reflecting thus. Whatever recluses and Brahmins in the future will purify their bodily action, their verbal action, and their mental action, all will do so repeatedly, reflecting thus. Whatever recluses and Brahmins in the present are purifying their bodily action, their verbal action, and their mental action, all are doing so by repeatedly reflecting thus. Therefore, Rahula, you should train thus. We will purify our bodily action, our verbal action, and our mental action by repeatedly reflecting upon them. That is what the Blessed One said. The Venerable Rahula was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So even though this was spoken to Rahula, who was a monk, we still can use those principles in our own daily life for purification. And people are sometimes very serious about purifying their life. And as they purify their life, they have more and more happiness. They're able to let go of suffering, and they're able to embrace the happiness that comes from letting go